It was supposed to be the race where Oscar Piastri fired back. Instead, it's the one fans won't stop whispering about. From championship leader to 5th place, from promise to paranoia, the Mexico Grand Prix didn't just flip the standings, it flipped the narrative. And, in the shadows of the Autódromo Hermanos Rodríguez, one thing became painfully clear. Something is not right inside McLaren. When Lando Norris stood on the top step of the podium, cheered by some, booed by others, Oscar Piastri was still picking dust out of his helmet. While one McLaren soared, the other, well, it survived. Barely. The internet exploded. Fans shouted sabotage. Conspiracies lit up the timeline. But Oscar, he stayed calm, at least on the surface. "It's difficult to say, ultimately," he said after the race, voice calm but eyes giving away something more. "We certainly tried a lot of different things, but at the back with cars as well, so it was difficult to kind of get a read on whether what I was changing with my driving was working that well or not." That's the thing. This wasn't just a bad race, it was a weird one. A weekend where Oscar qualified 8, got bumped up to 7 because of Carlos Sainz's penalty, and then fell like a rock, down to P11 by turn 3. Why? It wasn't driver error, it wasn't even a strategy miss. Telemetry revealed the truth: dirt. Max Verstappen and George Russell went wide in a chaotic launch, and their desperate moves sent clouds of dust straight into Piastri's car. He lost grip, lost control, had to correct. And by the time the car settled, Tsunoda, Gasly, Alonso, they were gone. Still, Oscar clawed back. Passed Tsunoda on lap 11, passed traffic when he could, but all race long he was stuck in dirty air, staring at the gearbox of the car ahead. So when people asked, what happened? The answer wasn't one thing. It was 10. Dust, heat, setup, style, bad timing, and maybe more. What makes it strange is that the car was fast. The McLaren was really fast. It wasn't so much the pace of the car, Oscar admitted, because the car was pretty quick this weekend. It was more just trying to unlock it, and that's where it gets tricky, because this wasn't just about car setup. This was about Oscar himself, his style, his instincts, his natural rhythm, offbeat, with the way this car demanded to be driven in the heat. For some reason, the last couple of weekends has required a very different way of driving, he said. What's worked well for me in the last 19 races has needed something very different the last couple of weekends, and trying to wrap my head around why has been a bit of a struggle. That word, struggle, keeps coming back. Because while Lando Norris dances with the sliding McLaren like it's second nature, Piastri is having to force it, bend his habits, unlearn and relearn. I think driving the way I've had to drive these last couple of weekends is not particularly natural for me, he confessed. So it's been about trying to exploit as much as I can. Even McLaren team boss Andrea Stella admitted it. In this regime, you have to drive the car in a way that adapts to the fact that the car slides a lot, and can slide, and produce lap time, he said. This is not necessarily the way in which Oscar feels naturally that he is producing lap time. Think about that. The very skill that made Oscar Piastri a championship contender suddenly doesn't work. And if that's not frustrating enough, the numbers are. A 15-point swing in just one weekend. Norris now leads the championship by a single point, from one mistake, one start, one moment. But Oscar doesn't sound defeated. I think we'll clearly learn, if there was some things to learn, if we changed some things today and made progress with that. And yeah, I think if I have, then that'll leave me relatively happy, he said. If there's still some things to learn, then back to the drawing board. Back to the drawing board. A phrase that stings when you were just leading the World Championship. But the fight isn't over. Not even close. There are still 4 races left. Brazil, Vegas, Qatar, Abu Dhabi. 116 points still to play for. And now, it's personal. Next, gloves off. Team orders gone. McLaren called it a clean slate. Lando versus Oscar. Oscar versus Lando. No buffer, No holding back. Because if Piastri wants this title, he's going to have to take it. But can he? Or was Mexico the beginning of a deeper unraveling? So, what does it look like when a future world champion gets pushed into survival mode? In Mexico, Oscar Piastri didn't crack, but he did reveal the pressure, and that's what makes this so compelling. We saw the face of a driver still smiling in interviews, still saying the right things. But in the cockpit, in the data, the signs are there. A man adapting to something that no longer feels like home. He even said it himself. Today was about trying to experiment with some of those things. And then came the sentence that made jaws tighten. Driving the way I've had to drive these last couple of weekends is not particularly natural for me. Read that again. Not natural. So is this just about track temperatures and grip levels? Or is it something deeper? Andrea Stella, McLaren's team boss, tried to smooth things over. He praised Oscar's performance, saying, "Oscar should be very proud of himself. We could see in the race that he was applying what he learned." He definitely had a more competitive pace than yesterday. Stella's tone was measured, calm, controlled. But what he said next revealed the truth. It's a bit of a shame that he was not in condition to fully use the space, because we could not find the way to just get him out of traffic. Not in condition. Trapped. Learning. Adapting. It's all coded language for a driver being reshaped in real time. But reshaped into what? That's the real question. Because this isn't just about racecraft, it's about identity. Oscar Piastri became the McLaren Golden Boy not because he was fast sometimes, but because he was relentless, precise, efficient, unshaken. Now, suddenly, his tools aren't working. His feedback loop is scrambled, and he's being asked to change the way he drives, while still beating one of the fastest drivers on the grid, in equal machinery, in the middle of a title fight. No pressure. And here's where the conspiracy whispers start to make sense, not in facts, but in fear. Fans saw Lando Norris dominate. They saw Piastri disappear into mid-pack purgatory. They saw team radio silence, strategy ambiguity, no big push from the pit wall to get him clean air. They saw the numbers. Norris qualifying 0.6 faster, winning by 30 seconds. A 1-point gap flipped. It's the kind of lopsided weekend that breeds suspicion, even if McLaren insists otherwise. Stella tried to kill the theory once and for all, saying, "In the final 4 races, no reason to think that one may favor one driver or the other." But fans don't believe words, they believe patterns. And right now, the pattern is scary for Oscar. Still, there's a quiet confidence in him that never fades. Pressed on how he plans to respond, Oscar kept it brutally simple. Find some more pace and win some more races. That's it. That's the fire. Behind the cool accent, the calm media responses, and the polite smiles, that line shows exactly where his head is. And there's still everything to play for. 2 sprint weekends, 4 Grand Prix, 116 points. McLaren have already won the constructors. The gloves are off. There are no more excuses, no more cover. The next few races will either turn Oscar Piastri into the next great champion, or reveal the cracks that break him. Because if there's one thing we learned in Mexico, it's that Piastri isn't just racing Norris anymore. He's racing the very car he drives, the setups, the heat, the philosophy, the learning curve. It's him versus everything. And while Lando may have mastered the slide, Oscar is trying to master the storm. Andrea Stella put it best. This is also important for the next 4 races. We need to be ready for all of them. But I think Oscar should be very proud and happy with this race. Proud? Maybe. But happy? Only one thing will make Oscar Piastri happy now: taking back what was his. So we ask, will the real Oscar return in Brazil? Or has Mexico left a mark that even he can't erase? Let us know what you think. Is this just a phase, or the beginning of the end for Piastri's title dream? Because one thing's certain, McLaren may say the slate is clean, but the fans haven't forgotten.